What's up, y'all? You are listening to For the Artists, a podcast brought to you by Creative and Projects. I'm your host, Melissa Sharee, and once again, we have another feature. I'm so excited. I'm excited about this one, y'all, because for real, okay, secret, he's one of my favorites, and he is my friend, okay? I'm just going to say
Aw.
that right now, but let me tell you who it is, okay? Let's start off with this. Faith, falsettos, and philanthropy are three things that you'll find in the DNA makeup of our feature today. Devin Kowl. Devin is a singer, a songwriter, a performing artist. He started his music journey nearly a decade ago, okay? And I always say this because everybody that comes on looks like super young, okay? So you're looking at him and it's like, okay, you started at 1.5. Got it. But he was a soloist during his elementary graduation. He credits the artistic push from Mrs. Lawson and the audience standing ovation with dramatically changing his life. Ooh, we should talk about that. He was born
Yes.
and raised in Washington, D.C. Cole grew up listening to the city's soulful chart-topping R&B artists from the 90s and the early 2000s. And let me tell you, he has a charitable spirit, which led him to release his first EP at the age of 15. 15, y'all. What was you doing at 15? As the vocalist and face behind a worldwide anti bullying campaign. He went from unknown artist to local celebrity in the blink of an eye. He performed at the historic Blues Alley Jazz and Supper Club in DC, and by 18, Devin knew, yeah, he knew it was time to take his career to new heights. And so he did. 2 weeks after his birthday, he packed his bags and moved to LA. And since living in LA, he has been balancing, okay, the career of entertainment with the day to day life as an executive in the family business favor consulting group. Boom, they are bomb. Let me just tell you, that's how I know him. Okay, it's a full service consulting firm for nonprofits. He is well rounded. He's a generational entrepreneur, so you already know he is doing big things and has been his whole life. Devin, say hello to the people.
Hello to the people. You know how you know your bio, but then when somebody else reads it, you're like, is that me?
I love that effect. I love it.
Are
Sometimes
you
we need
sure
to
you're talking
hear.
about me?
Yeah, I'm sure. And I love for people to hear it because sometimes you need to hear it to be reminded, like, yes,
Yes,
I am doing
sometimes.
things and I'm going to do some more.
Yeah, I'm gonna do
And
some
that's what
more.
you
I'm
do.
busy, that's for sure.
You are busy. You know what? You just released a single. Is it
I
released?
did.
Yeah.
I just put out my actually I released a single in February. It's now March. And I just released the live version of the live performance video for that single that I just put out on Monday. I put it out on my birthday. Had a brain fart. Um,
Ah!
but yes, my new single is out. It is called Missing You. Stream it, fall in love with it, share it. Um, it is a it is a record that started out as a love song. Well, I wouldn't say love, I'd say breakup song is what it really was.
Mm,
And then I sat on it so long, which I'm sure you can identify with that.
I can.
I sat on it so long after we wrote it and recorded it. I re recorded the song maybe like 7 times before I finally decided, like, all right, I got to stop playing, just put the record out. And I actually put it out pretty much now, I guess, at this weird transition of the kind of the end of the pandemic, kind of the middle, kind of we still don't really know what's happening, but things are kind of open, but then they still scare us with like we may shut back down. And so then the meaning of it now has transformed a lot for me over the last 2 years of just sitting on it for so long since I first wrote the record that it
hmm
truly turned into honestly a letter to myself, kind of how I just started looking in the mirror and was honestly just missing myself. I didn't understand me anymore. Like a lot of people during the pandemic, gained a bunch of weight. That was strange for me. Somebody who works out 5 to 6 days a week to then gain like 20 or 30 pounds over the course of a year and a half is kind of like, whoa, what happened? Um, so it turned in the meaning of it has, of course, as most records do, as most songs do, it transformed for me into honestly a letter to me missing myself and to us kind of just as a people of where we are, us just all kind of missing ourselves, not understanding where we're at, not understanding what this looks like, but trying to find the synergy in the center of oneself to get back to, their best self. But yes, it's
Ooh,
out. Go watch it.
it's
The
out.
video's awesome. The video hit 60K views in the first week, so happy about that. Um,
That's
but
what's up.
yeah, it's out. It's called "Missing You" by Devin Cole. So go check it out. It
And
is my little baby.
and it's fire. I do love the song, y'all. I do love it.
Thank you,
First of
thank
all, I
you.
love how you have already transitioned through the meanings of your song, because I was just talking to a friend. I'm not kidding. Last weekend we were talking about the places where artists write from when
Mhm.
they're writing their songs, and how if you write from an emotional place, right, and you don't get over the emotions of that whatever it was, you're not gonna want to keep singing that song, because every time you sing it, it might be a wound or a hurt or a scar for
Man.
you. I mean, it could be a healing
Uh-huh.
process too, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, so writing songs that will transcend, so that whenever you have to go back and sing that song, especially if it's a hit, you can like sing it and be wanting to sing it and not be like, oh
Right,
gosh, I'm so over this song.
right. Well, too, even if you heal from it, I feel like you have the space of it just takes you back to such an emotional space of like, damn, I really wrote that. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, I was listening to a song the other day because I'm working on a new record that I have coming out. I'm finishing up. It's coming out at the end of April, beginning of May. Finishing it up, tweaking it and stuff. And there were a few lines in it that I was going over with one of my many friends I write with, because I always believe in writing with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I don't know, it's just better. It just always sounds better. It feels better.
Hmm.
And so I was going over it was like the first or second verse of the song, and I looked at her and I said, I was really mad this day when I wrote this. She said, you really were. And I said, damn. I've got to. I looked at her and the producer. I said, I don't know if I'm over this yet. I didn't know I was this mad still. So it definitely is like it's writing records is such, for me, is something, especially because I started in music when I was 15. I put out my first EP, as my bio said, at 15.
Yeah,
And that bio was not, oh, sorry, I have so many things happening on this computer.
it's okay.
Um, as my bio said, my first record came out when I was 15. And as a kid, when you start in this industry, I was always told, I always had people writing for me. And it was never like, I was never encouraged to write records. It was always like, oh, you don't know what you want to sing about yet.
Mm.
And then, of course, now being an adult and writing, it's like something that I couldn't imagine letting somebody else tell my story. Um, and I feel like just a part of being a good writer is just writing from an honest place. And sometimes it's not the best place. Sometimes you go back and you listen to records and you're kind of like, whoa, won't be putting this out, but this was great. I got that off my chest. Now let's figure out what to write next now that we're done with that. But yeah, it's just, writing can be two things. It can be very therapeutic, or again, I agree, you can write something and then it take you to a place because you haven't healed from it. Every time you have to sing it, you're like, I don't feel like crying today, or I don't feel like being mad today. I don't want to do this. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful process of being able to put your art on paper and then it resonate with people, because that's the biggest thing. I'm Especially when I got into writing my own records, that's my biggest thing. Even now, playing stuff for people, I'm just like, ooh, they gonna judge this. What they gonna say? Please don't say anything disrespectful about this song.
Right.
But it comes with the territory.
So, do you write every day? Do you write every day?
Not every day. I probably should be writing every day, but I am not. I'm very different in that I'm very left brain and right brain, as in I am super duper creative, but then I also have the mind of an entrepreneur. I'm very much so a planner, very much so a get it done, very much so a straight to the point, cross my T's, dot my I's, which is not normal for creatives. A lot of us are normally, I think it's right brain. That's your creative brain that is kind of like, oh, la di da di da di, whatever it's going to be is what it's going to be. And so for me, writing every day would probably be great, but I also run a whole nother company that I'm really, really proud of, that I get to, inspire people again, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know what Favor Consulting Group is. We help people start their nonprofits and develop their nonprofits, and as well for purpose-driven businesses. But so I'm not writing every day just because I honestly don't have the time at the moment. Like last week was so interesting to me because so last week I worked in the office every single day, which is, different for me and kind of the space I'm in right now of transitioning in my life of still going to be in the office a bit, but going solely back into music a lot more. And it was interesting to me I was at the office pretty much every day, normal office hours, and then I was leaving and going to the studio. And for some reason, I wasn't tired. My brain wasn't tapped out. It was very much so like both of them gave me two very different releases, which I think says a lot. But so I'm very different in that, I think writing every day could be cool, but then I'm weird where I also like structure. I like getting up and going to an office every day because when I don't have that structure, I am not the most productive person.
Yeah.
So I am someone who I value the structure of having an office and having to be there and me holding myself accountable, even as an entrepreneur, of having to, show up and be accountable for people. Because also, when you start employing people, it gets real nervous when you realize, like, dang, we don't make any money and I don't pay them in these
Right.
2 weeks. They don't want to fight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's that.
Okay, but listen, it's so valuable to be tuned in like that in terms of knowing yourself. Like you're pretty solid in terms of your awareness of how you function and how you function well. Everybody doesn't have that. So, and I'm sure you didn't have that coming out the womb, or did you?
I don't. Maybe I was a
Because
weirdo.
the
Who
womb you
knows?
were in was a great one. But but my question is, how did you get there to being able to have such an awareness about how well you function?
um, I think so. So I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur. My mom, she's also an entrepreneur. She's also a Virgo, which is a whole thing. I'm not big into astrology,
Yeah.
but I truly believe and understand a lot better now of what certain signs I understand certain signs now a little bit better because once I started actually looking at them, I was kind of like, oh, this is like my mom is a true Virgo through and through.
Hmm.
Like never realized it. But also with her being an entrepreneur, I was just raised a little different. I read a lot of books growing up and a lot of self-help, personal development books of that, like, the Joel Osteens, the John C. Maxwell's, the Think and Grow Riches, the Who Moved My Cheese, the Slight Edge by like all that type of stuff. So at a very young age, my mindset was very, very much so I put my first EP at 15 independently, not signed to a record label. So that kind of tells you where my mind was, right? Then I moved
Yes.
to LA 2 weeks after I turned 18 years old by myself. Not my whole family moved, and not this one moved with me. I literally moved by myself. My uncle agreed to ship my car, and I got on a flight scared as hell and just was like, all right, F it, let's see what happens. And I mean, 9.5 years later, it's working out, thank God. But it
Uh-huh.
has not always worked out. So I don't think I've always been super duper self-aware. Growth is something that takes time and it happens as life happens to you. Sometimes I truly believe certain situations make you grow.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn to either sink or swim. But I think at a very young age, I was always very, very self-aware. And I'm at a stage now because of the success I've been able to have with my corporate traditional company, if you will, and then the success I desire to have with music and trying to figure out time management and work-life balance and all these different things and not getting burnt out and not feeling like depleted every day. I've just started I pay much more attention now than I did, of course, when I was a teenager or even in my early 20s because I just turned 27. But not
Happy
always.
birthday.
Thank you. Not always, but it's something that I strive to be now because I take time to listen to my body and to listen how and to understand my emotions a bit better of why I react to certain things, why the way that I do, why I respond in conversation the way I do to certain things. And it makes a difference once you start to pay attention to those things and do the work of figuring out, well, maybe not cursing them out. Maybe cursing them out is not the best response in this situation, or maybe not getting aggressive is the best response to have all the time. At a certain point, you got to grow up. you know?
That's making me want to take a tangent to some recent activity, but we not gonna go there, okay? We not gonna do it. You not gonna pull me in, but
Oh man, I'm getting better. I don't always pass the test, but I'm definitely not failing all of them anymore. That's for sure.
Well, yes, yes, you're not failing all of them. There's so many places I want to go with what you just said.
Okay. Take
Because
me. Let's go. Let's go on a
I mean,
ride.
I love the fact that your mindset was directly related to your input, right? And you're still inputting in that same way, you know? When I think that's important because with all of the talk about, mental strength, all that, it's like we have to do our part in terms of what we're inputting. If you're
Right.
not inputting the right stuff, then you're going to have some challenges with getting your mind to go in the direction that you need it to go to serve you
Right.
in a way that's going to be beneficial.
Yeah.
But
And just as a society, we do a very good job of preaching mental health and saying just, my mental health is important. Mental health this, mental health that. But I realize we don't always do the best job of showing people how to get there. Right? It's one
yes.
thing to say, oh, change your mindset. Okay, how do I, for the person at home who truly has no idea, it's kind of like, well, where do I start? What does that look like?
Mhm.
Change my mindset. Like, so just don't watch TV after 7. And it's kind of like there's no one to tell them, like, okay, well, your subconscious mind is always absorbing stuff, right? Always. Like, let's say you fall asleep to a TV show and then you have a crazy dream. Your subconscious mind is absorbing all of that stuff, whether you want to believe it or not. It's very, very much so a real thing.
Yeah.
And so when you're intentional, imagine if you just subconsciously, I don't know, played motivational speakers in the background when you went to bed, or played gospel music, whatever your religion is, it may be. I serve God. I don't know about anybody else. Um, but all of that'll be very, very it'll start to shift how you think and how you do life. So imagine though when you really focus and you just lock in and intentionally make sure you put the right things in your mind, right? Read the right
Mhm.
books, have the right conversations, listen to the right music, take the right advice, and learning how to really absorb things that are going to make you grow. Because if you, it's there's so many ways that we talk about mental health, but don't always get into the nitty gritty of what that looks like. I mean, even down to your associations, like you hang it's you
Yeah.
hang around 7 broke people and what happens? You become the 8th, right? What do you talk about all day? The fact that nobody has any money.
Hmm.
Think about it.
Well.
You hang around 7 depressed people, what happens? At some point you become the depressive one, because what do you guys talk about all day? Nothing but being depressed. Even
Mhm.
though it's fine to be that, but at a certain point you gotta realize, like, I got some friends that make me happy. I can't sit in the dark room with y'all all the time. At
Right.
some point I got to get up. But
Mhm.
that's a whole nother conversation that people aren't always extremely ready to have. But
Not ready to have, but at some point, it's like
yeah.
you have to have it
Hmm.
if you plan to
Man,
get from where you are to someplace else.
mindset is so
Mm.
important. It's so key to just everything. Like, you change that and it's like unlocking the keys to life,
Mm.
literally. Like,
Yeah.
when you can really shape and change how you think, like, anything is possible.
Mhm.
Anything, truly. You can have anything you want in life.
Anything. Okay, so you got a lot going on. You got your music, you have Favor. Do you have
Mhm.
another business? How many businesses you got? Are you Jamaican? I
just
got 3 jobs, man. I got 3.
just favor in music right now. Just
For
favor in
now.
music for now.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
some things in the works, but those are kind of like back burner things, But my main 2 pots are things that
Okay.
pay the bills are right here. Favor and music. Those are
So
my 2 focuses. That's where I'm at.
what's your motivation? Like what really just gives you the let's go? Like what is that for you?
So many things.
Okay.
So many things. It honestly shifts a lot, but for me, it is I am truly on a mission to create generational wealth for my family.
Mm.
I'm sure. I mean, if you follow me on social media, I think everybody at this point knows my little godson Mateo, that people probably think is my child, but he's not. If I had him my way, he would be. He's absolutely perfect. He's the closest thing I'm gonna have to a kid for now, at least for like the next 5 to 10 years. I don't want none no time soon of my own.
Uh-huh.
But honestly, that it's creating, I when I have kids and I get to that place, I want to be in a space of where I have created generational wealth for my family. I want to be in a space of I don't want to just leave money and cars and all this weird stuff, not
Mhm.
weird stuff, but the material things
Yeah.
to my family and to my long lineage of that I'm gonna have after me. You know, it sounds great to say I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur. Um, but out of those four, the only person, well, now my mom, thank God, but before her, you know, to watch my grandfather on my mom's side, he was a serial entrepreneur. He owned a little country corner store. He owned a dry cleaners at one point. He owned a trash like pickup company at one point. I
Mm.
think at one point he owned a bunch of school buses that I think were like something to do with like the school system or something in Virginia that he like helped run and do all that stuff.
Wow.
I may be confusing my great grandfather for that one. Okay, maybe getting them confused. However, though, I say all that to say one of the greatest things that I think that my grandfather on my mom's side was able to do is he had five children altogether. My mom, and then there was four boys, and then his then wife that he had when he passed away. But he was able to leave them so much land that then they were able to do other things with and spin it into other businesses, other versions of other, you know, abilities to create wealth. And it's something that for me, growing up watching that, is something that I'm fighting for that, and I want that.
Hmm.
I want my kids to be in the same position that I have for, you know, for myself. Honestly, I didn't have to go to college if I didn't want to. I had the choice. If I wasn't looked at as if I was crazy when I said, okay, I want to be a singer, it was
Hmm.
okay, well, how do we do that?
Yeah.
It wasn't a, oh, you can't do that, or no, don't do that, or no, you need to get an education. It was like, well, if that's what you want to do, how do we go about it? What does that look like? But my why honestly is my family, man. Like, I'm willing to fight for them any day of the week, anytime. Don't try it with them. But that is the
Okay.
biggest why. Them, and then two, it's just like there is especially when it comes to music, there is, I can't explain the type of high and just love you feel when you write a record, you put it out, and you get messages from people and they tell you, oh my God, I was going through a breakup and this inspired me. Or like with Missing You, I've been getting so many messages, which is so crazy to me, of people saying, and again, everybody interprets it different. Getting so many messages from people saying, like, you know, I lost my husband, or I lost my son, or, you know, so and so died. And this song, honestly, it describes everything of how I feel.
Hmm.
And that is a high that is unexplainable, realizing you are helping people grow and helping people express and digest and figure out their emotions. That's just something that's like every time I've tried to walk away from music, it's like it draws me back in. Every time I've been like,
Hmm.
all right, maybe this just isn't it. Maybe this is, I have to hang this up. And it's just like something happens and it just pulls you back in. And that feeling there, realizing something like that, God has given you a gift like that, it's like, okay, well, I can't just sit that down. Like that's just not even fair. I can't just leave the gift. That's not how that works. But honestly, yeah, that feeling, my family, those are like my two biggest. That's what wakes me up in the morning. That's what gets me out of bed. That's what, when I don't feel like working and I don't feel like answering that phone for favor, that
Yeah.
is what makes me keep going.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you this, okay, because generational wealth, right, and family. I mean, it seems like a no brainer. You don't have to think much about it, right? When it's like
Mm-hmm.
family, okay, but there has to be a why behind the why. It's like why? Someone asked me this years ago, and it was so powerful. And I'm like, so why is it that generational wealth and family is so important to you?
Hmm.
Like, what is that about?
Well, for me, it's honestly, you know, everybody has, I guess, core, right? You know, you have core values for a company.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would say the core values of my family and the foundation that I was taught and built on is like family is forever, right? Like my great grandmother, when my brother and I used to argue, we used to argue like cats and dogs at a certain point growing up. My brother is 5 years older than me, so imagine that. And then like it's just this, it's like that age, that weird age gap where it's just enough, but it's also it's like it's just enough, but not too much, but still too much.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, you know, imagine as you know, it's cool and it's like you're a baby and he's five, everything may be cool. But then it's like as you grow up and it's like, well, I'm starting middle school and he's starting high school, two totally different things, right? Totally
Mm-hmm.
different mindsets. And my grandmother used to always say, which is so morbid now that I think about it, but she was right because I think about it a lot even now when I get into it with him. And she always used to tell us, when everybody dies and it's just you two, what are you gonna do? You can't not speak. And I used to be
Mm.
like, as a kid, he's be like, nobody's ever gonna die because you're a kid. You're just like, oh, whatever. Like
Yeah.
everybody's not gonna be gone. It's like just gonna be me and him left here. But then as you grow up and life starts to happen, you're like, well, damn, I guess she was right.
Mm.
And um, for me, it's just that having that so ingrained in us because I come from a pretty big family.
Hmm.
I only have one sibling, my brother, but we were raised. All of us that are cousins were all kind of raised together. We all kind of lived within, I'd say maybe 10 to 15 minutes of each other. We all, even though lived separately, our parents would drop us off at our, like most Black people. Our grandparents would drop it. Our parents would drop us off at our grandparents' house in the morning. We'd all go to school from our grandparents' house, whether you were in elementary, middle, or high school, because it was all of us. So it was
Mm.
somebody going to every different school. Like somebody was in high school all the time. Somebody was always in middle school. Like for a long time growing up, every year somebody was graduating from high school because that's just how many of us it was. Like it just that's just how the cookie crumbled. Every year it was like, well, you know, he's graduating this year, she graduates next, and she's the year after him. And it was just like, now growing up, now being an adult, I understand how amazing that was. But I also understand now seeing that and seeing how we worked together as a unit, my family did back then, and understanding like what that actually took from just my grandmother, from everybody's parents to everything. That's just something that's just like, that's one reason my family is such just my why. Like,
Mm.
even now with my mom, because I live here in LA, but so does my mom, as you know, and then I have my older brother who lives here as well. He moved here. I moved here first, and then my mom came like a year and a half later, and then he came like 2 years after her. But
Mm.
even being here and watching how we honestly, we just work as a unit. Like we work in sync of just, all right, whatever you need, I got, whatever you need, I got. And for me, that's just something that my family is like the closest thing to my heart, because friends come and go, relationships come and go, but that is just, for me, that's just forever, because the way we were raised as well is like, we're not allowed to fall out with each other. You can be mad for a day or two, but my grandmother, you're not going more than 24 hours without talking to each other, because in her words, I'll be damned. But
Mm. Okay.
so for me, it's just that. And you know, my family has been there every time I wanted to stop music, I wanted to start music. And listen, those are my biggest cheerleaders for anything it is that I want to do. If you let them so that I can do anything in the world, which is as how it should be,
Hmm.
um, very honest at the same time too. So they have no problem saying, "I didn't like that one, but nice job." But that you shouldn't do that no more. But that's just family. Where as loving as we are, they're a little too honest sometimes. Don't ever ask them your opinion if you're not ready.
Oh, but you know what? But that's love. My mom will always tell me I'm the only one that's gonna tell you the truth. So you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And that's love.
my whole
Only
family will tell you the truth, whether
yeah.
you're ready for it or not.
Hmm. Well, I can't say that about everybody, but I can say that about my mama. So, how hard was it for you to come to LA by yourself and leave your heart, your family?
Yeah. Surprisingly for me, not that hard.
Hmm.
Um, I had been coming back and forth to LA since I was 15. I then turned 18 and I kind of knew what I wanted to do. I had performed at, oops, sorry, Melissa. I had performed at all of the big, like, hometown gigs of like Blues Alley and, God, what's the other theater? Constitution Hall and different stuff. Like, I had done all of the hometown gigs, right? I had done all of that stuff. And I felt like, all right, well, the next step, honestly, is to go to LA. What else do I have here to do? Like,
Hmm.
I felt like I had hit a ceiling there almost of like, I know all the big singers here. I've sang with them. I've opened for people here. What's next? And for me, even now, I am very much so a jump and figure it out kind of person.
Mm. Okay.
Like, I'm much more like, I guess, fight or flight. And I just always choose, like, just jump. Worst that can happen is I go back home. That's how I felt. Now, was it scary? Was it like, yeah, like all of those things, right? Especially like you gotta realize in Maryland, I lived a pretty good life. You know, I grew up
Mm.
in a nice home, we lived on a golf course. Like I went to private school. You
Yeah.
know, I lived a pretty nice life. So then to move here and it was like, okay, I'm gonna be renting a room from a cousin's house that I had never met in my entire life, and my mom knew her. And she just so happened to be renting rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have rooms, so I'm so country sometimes. She I had never met her in my entire life. I think I had talked to her at this point on the phone one time,
Mm-hmm.
and I just got my little happy self on a plane and was just headed to LA. And it was scary. It was all of all of the things that you have in your mind that it's going to be. It was those things, but also at the same time I understood this was the next step in my journey, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. I knew that I couldn't get to where I was trying to get to sitting there. I knew that I had to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And at 18 years old, that was my mindset. I just kept thinking, I was like, the worst thing that could happen is I pack up and I go home. Now, even though every time I did want to pack up and go home, my brother would call me and say, "What are you coming home for? What are you going to do here? Like, there's nothing. You're going to come home and do what?"
Mm.
And so I stayed, and it worked out, thank God. But I definitely have had my moments being here of F this. I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
do this. I don't have to do this. Leave me alone. I'm going home. Don't call me no more. But I stayed. Uh, yeah.
You stayed. You kept hanging in there. I had a vision
Hard
while
as it
you.
was.
I had a vision while you were talking because I know you've heard this when like I'm pretty sure it's like preachers or somebody that talk about like faith is not seeing the staircase or whatever, but you just
Hmm.
take a step at a time.
Right.
And I saw a vision of you. It's like so your your
Uh-oh.
steps instead of them being like right in front of each other, it's like yours are like there's some distance and you gotta
Uh-huh.
like really leap because you said you just jump and you leap. And where most people are just like tiptoeing, trying to like feel the step cautiously. Can I really step here? You're like,
Right.
yeah, over to the next one that's like a mile away.
Yeah, I'm a leaper. I just listen, I had a preacher a long time ago. He said something to the effect. He said, faith of the mustard. The Bible says faith of a mustard seed, right? But imagine if I had the faith of the planet, right? And that honestly, I truly feel like a lot of things just work out for me because I truly just I seek guidance from God. I don't make irresponsible decisions. I don't want people to think that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when God truly gives me a go ahead on something, I generally don't wait too long. I just am like, okay, all right, cool, I'll do it. Because my thing about it is just always like, if I truly trust that God is everything that people say He is, and everything that I've studied, and everything that I've learned, and everything I know, it has no choice but to work out. Now, the timing may be off because me and him generally are not on the same timetable. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to get there, just don't seem to ever be right.
I can
However,
relate.
um, it always works out, always. Whether I understand it in that moment or not, it always works out.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it may take me a second to realize it worked out for the best, even though in that moment I felt like, now this is some BS. But it's some bullshit. But it always works out. And I know that's so cliche to say, but my life, if nothing else, I feel is a testament of that.
Yeah.
I started Favor Consulting Group with my mom almost 5 years ago, over 5 years ago now. It was 5 years in December. And when I started Favor Consulting Group, I made a deal with her. And I had met this girl who was managing, who she had moved to LA to do, I think she was to be like an actress or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
her brother started taking off on Instagram. He was like, her brother now is this huge actor. Um, Everybody know, I can't think of his name at the moment, but if I said it, you would know it. But I had a friend who was mutual friends with her, and she kept telling me about how this girl, she moved out here, her brother started taking off, and she took a year off from her career to start managing her brother and then also help her mom start a tax company, a tax business, doing taxes and accounting and all that stuff. And so my mom, I had just mentioned to her, like, hey, you should maybe you should turn your nonprofit stuff you should turn that into your next business. Because she was kind of falling out of love with event planning and figuring out what was her next move, what was going to happen, what was her next step, right? And just
Yeah.
some other stuff was happening with her clients with that company. And so I said, maybe you should turn this into a business. That was like maybe 6 months before. So unbeknownst to me, in those 6 months, she had set up a whole new LLC, started taking clients under Favor Consulting Group, and
Mm-hmm.
it started growing quick. she
Mhm.
started making a lot of money from it. And she was very overwhelmed. And she kept talking about, like, I just need help, I just need help, I just need help. And I just kept brushing it off, like, oh, whatever. And then what happened was I got a job. I had a job and I got fired from that job. I got fired from that job. Funny in my life, which is why I'm an entrepreneur.
God's
Got
plan.
fired for got I've been fired a lot. Been fired more than I've been hired. I'll just say that.
Oh,
Was a terrible employee. Um,
wow.
um, but got fired from that job. I kept hearing God say, remember that story that you learned about? Maybe you should do that. And I was like, no, 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 no. I'm not ever taking a year off from music. And at that time, like, stuff had started to, like, really, like, as crazy as other things were happening, that was finally starting to make sense. I was getting called for a lot of gigs. I was meeting all these producers. I was working on records. I was singing demos for, like, Chris Brown and Trey Songz and all these people, and, like, hanging out in the studio with some big artists and different stuff. And I was like, no, I'm finally, like, getting somewhere. Like, people are calling me for gigs. Like, they know who I am finally in that world.
Mhm.
And I made a deal with God, and I said I'm gonna take a year off from music and see what happens with Favor and help my mom build Favor.
Mm.
Hardest decision I ever made. Took a year off from music. Started helping her dive, like, feet first into Favor. Also had been fired, remember, so I didn't have a job. So, and I kept applying for jobs everywhere and couldn't. In the history of my life, I could always find a job, always, like, no matter what it was. I knew enough people here to, like, I could finesse something.
Yeah.
And I must have went on every job interview I could have in the world, and every single one, none of them hired me. And
Mm.
so I was like, well, I guess this is a sign. The one time I didn't just leap like I should have, which is
Mm.
why now I leap. I'm just like, if God says do it, do it.
Yeah.
So started working with her here at Favor, did that for a year. That year turned into 2, turned into 3, turned into 4, turned into 5, right? Now, in those 5 years, I will tell you the doors that have opened for my music career are some that are unexplainable.
Mhm.
From the producers I now work with, who are, you know, 4 and 5 and 10-time Grammy Award winning, and, hundreds of millions of records sold, and having people who work at record labels who are now our clients that just, anything you need me to do, let me know.
Mhm.
I shot a pilot for a whole TV show because one of our clients works in that realm of things, and, as an exec over at a few different places. And look at what happened when I leaped, right? When I finally followed
Yes.
God's plan. Now, of course, that 1 to 2, those 2 to 3, because the first 3 years, all I did was this. I wasn't really doing music, I wasn't doing anything. And I kept feeling like, okay, when does the music start? When does the music start?
Mhm. Mhm.
And at year 3, when I finally started slowly getting back into music, when they talk about God's timing, the doors that have been opened, like, it's just unexplainable and unimaginable, and just kind of like, all right, like, if I had never done this, if I had never done Favor, I'm sitting in our office right now. I'm in our conference room, actually, to be exact, at our new office. I wouldn't nearly be as, I wouldn't have the doors that are opening for me now. It was
Yeah.
literally everything I was supposed to do, and it was everything God was supposed to have me do. I don't even remember what the question was and how we got there. Uh,
I was talking about you being a leaper, I believe, and
a
you
leaper, yes.
expanded
And
on that.
but so that story is now why I just leap,
Why you leap?
because
Mhm.
I have no regrets at all, not
Mhm.
one. However, I do wonder, if I had leaped when he told me to leap,
Mm.
would I would have had to wait those 3 years
Yeah.
to finally get those doors to open? You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
timing. I was, when they open, now that they're opening, I'm ready for them. I wasn't before,
Yeah.
nowhere near.
Yeah.
But it's been amazing. And as we also all know, being an independent artist is not cheap. And
Mm.
so now that I finally have a budget to do the things I need to do, that also makes a big difference.
Yeah, huge. I hear people talk about, making deals with the Lord all the time, but what I want to point out that I really love about your story is the deal didn't initiate with you. It initiated with it. It was like it initiated with like you heard from the Lord. It felt like you was hearing from Him first.
Listen,
I feel like a lot of people do it backwards. They don't really hear from the Lord first. They're just like, Lord, look, if I do this, can you give me this and give me that? And it's
I
like
was gonna say,
it
and that's the
doesn't work
crazy
that way,
thing.
boo.
That never crossed my mind. None of that crossed my mind. Of like, all right, well, if I do this, you got to do this. It was just kind of like, if you say so. Like, are you sure? Like, God, is this you? You know, it's almost like, God, just give me a sign. And then he like hits you with a frying pan and you're just like, I don't know if that's the sign. God, give me another sign. It's like,
Get a
how many
larger
more do you
frying pan.
need? Like,
Okay, but for somebody who is having a tough time getting to that place of faith or actually being able to even trust, put their trust in what God's saying or his timing or anything like that, what would you say to that person?
I'd say start
Like,
with yourself.
mm,
Oftentimes I have learned when we have a hard time trusting people, or we have a hard time forgiving people, or we have a hard time being patient with people, it's because we're not any of those things with ourselves. We're not as forgiving with ourselves as we should be. We're not as patient with ourselves as we should be. We are not as forgiving with ourselves or trusting with ourselves as we should be.
mm-hmm.
And I think it starts from one, truly building a relationship with God, right? It's not just, pray when you need something. It's truly a relationship, Sometimes, some people get on their knees and talk to God and they have all this great theatrical language and quote scriptures and sound so great. Can you still hear me? I think my AirPod may have went out.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And they think it's so great and they sound so majestic and so awesome. And then, you have people like me that sometimes be like, nigga, what you doing up there? What? What in the heck is happening? I don't like this.
Oh,
This is
wow.
not fair. This don't make no sense. You have to make this make sense to me because this one you play, I think you're playing with me, and I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it starts there. It starts with yourself. I have done a lot of time of realizing I used to be so impatient, and I was so impatient because I was impatient with myself. I didn't give people a lot of grace because I never gave myself any grace. I couldn't let up on myself, even down to the littlest things of even working out. If I miss a day of working out, I was so hard on myself. So what happens? I was so hard on everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I used to pray a prayer every day almost. It seemed like God help me to forgive myself so I can forgive other people. Because for some reason, it just seemed so hard and so foreign to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like anybody that did anything wrong, I was supposed to hold a grudge against them for the rest of my life. Now they done moved on and they happy about theirs, and they couldn't care less. Ain't even thinking about you, but you walking around mad, and it's just like they then forgot you even exist probably, or what they even did. They could care less. But
Mm-hmm.
I think and I know from my experience, that's where it starts with trusting is learning to trust yourself and then to digesting and having an honest conversation with God about where you are and why you don't trust right now and what those shortcomings are. And I'll tell you, the answer sheet to life is in the Bible. Everything you want to know, every trick of the trade, every
Yeah.
fast little cool thing you want to
Straight
know, I
facts.
promise you, if you get in there and read it, every answer to the test is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a matter of do you want to do the research to win the test, or would you like to keep failing?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it starts. That's where I started, and I think it worked out pretty damn well for me,
Yeah.
if I may say so myself.
I mean, I'm so inspired by you and your mom, and I mean all of it. I mean, I can't even say enough good things about you guys and the impact that you've
Oh,
had in
thank
the
you.
amount of time that I've known you.
Yeah,
And I feel like we're just getting started. But let us not,
right.
go off another trail because we are going to begin to wrap up. So I can't have you on here for 2 hours. You got companies and things to run. But I do want to ask you this. So would you say that your biggest obstacle as an artist or as a creative person was the amount of time that you had to wait while you were, you know, doing other things that you committed to God to, or was there something else that you've had to like overcome that was major as an artist in terms of a challenge?
I don't even want to say waiting was, I don't think waiting was my biggest obstacle. I think my biggest obstacle was doing the work.
Mm.
Um, I had to get very real about, I was desiring and asking for certain things because, comparison is never fun, right? As the saying goes, it's the thief of all joy, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to realize people who I was coming up with and did stuff with in music who were going on to be, I don't know, huge background singers or huge, they were going overseas and becoming like huge artists and doing stuff over there. I found myself getting jealous and being like, dang, when is it my turn? What's happening? And then I had a friend of mine, I was talking to her about it one day about how upset I was and just how frustrated I was. And she said, what do you want though? And I said, what do you mean? She said, what's your goal? And I started saying it, and I'll never forget, it hit me like a ton of bricks in her house. She lived in North Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
She said, Kamika Purnell, she said to me, she said, do you realize everything you just told me, all the stuff you just named your friends are doing, that's nowhere in your goals. Like you didn't, she said, you never said you wanted any of that. Like,
Uh-huh.
she was like, do you understand how that makes no sense?
Mm.
And I was like, I guess she'd be right. And so for me, I think the biggest obstacle was doing the work to prepare myself and staying focused on what it is that I wanted out of my artistry and I wanted out of being a music artist, and not comparing myself to what everyone else was doing that looked like really great success and probably still is.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the success I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And those weren't the things that I wanted to do. I was so busy. I had gotten so busy comparing myself to what everybody else was doing, not even realizing like, I don't want to do that. That does not like in theory, it's like in theory, yeah, that sounds cool. They get to work in music every day. But it also in actuality, it's like I'm not ever doing that. No,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to wake up and go sing background every day for the rest of my life. Not that there's anything wrong with it, because a lot of people, I have a lot of friends who do it. They make a lot of money and they're very content and they're very happy with it. But for
Mm.
me, it would just be trading one problem for another, because I'd probably go to sing background and then the whole time be wondering, when do I get to sing? When do I get to sing the front though? I want to be there. I want to be in the front of the stage. I don't want to be back here in all black. That just, and again, it's nothing wrong with it. That just, I had to realize that wasn't my goal. That was nowhere on my goals to be, that I wanted to do. So why are you getting mad about it? So that was the biggest thing for me is, saying like, I remember a couple years ago, I kept saying, I just want to go on tour. I want to go on tour. I want to go on tour. I want to open up for somebody great. And I had to get honest with myself and say, one, your voice isn't ready to go on tour. If you had
Mm.
to sing every night for the next 6 months, you vocally are just not ready. You're not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Two, physically, your body can't handle it because you eat like you are a fool. So that's also not going to work. But then again, and now saying that in the growth that has taken place is saying like, all right, cool. I want to release, these records and I want to go on tour. I want to do some stuff, right? So what have I done now? I work out every day. I am now, and I just got out of a 4-month like vocal intensive that was like one of the best things I think I've ever done for my voice.
Mm-hmm.
But again, my point is, now I have a thought. My thought process is working backwards, basically, of okay, I want to go on tour. So what do I need to do to make sure that if and when the opportunity presents itself, I'm in the right space to even be ready for something like that? Because we ask for so many things and we're not ready for it. I want to buy a car. Well, first things first, let's get a job. Let's have somewhere to actually drive the car to, right? We do such a great job of just saying blanket things and not realizing like, no, no, this isn't right. So that's the biggest thing of just one. It wasn't even waiting, because the things I have now are definitely things that I asked for, but I wasn't ready. And
Mm-hmm.
if I'm honest, I knew I wasn't ready. But I also wasn't doing the work to get myself ready. I was forced into that. And now I'm in a space in my life where if I'm asked for it, I'm gonna make sure I do the work to get it. So that when it comes, because it's going to come,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm ready to receive it and not like, maybe I should pass on this.
Yes. Okay, you giving us yes moments over here. I'm feeling all that, y'all. If you want it, you better work for it. Okay, you can't be ready by
Yeah,
osmosis.
no, listen,
So
got
good.
to get to it.
Oh my goodness. Man, okay. I hate to end it. I mean, I hate to wrap it up.
What? You want one more
We
question? I got time. I got time if you want to do. You
No, I
want
mean, we
to
could just I don't have any questions planned. I'm just saying I could just keep talking forever and ever and ever, like literally. Okay? What do you have coming up? I mean, I know things are kind of just now opening, kind of sorta.
kind of, sort of. So I have a live show that is in the works with a friend of mine named Lorene Shia. She is an amazing artist who is immensely talented. She and I are working on doing our first show together here in LA because I haven't been able to perform in 2 years, which is why I just released that live performance video from my single because I just felt like I missed the stage
Mhm.
so much. And so I was like, well, why not just take the stage to the people?
Mhm.
So working on a live show with her that's going to be here in LA. That'll probably be towards the middle of May, though. And then like I said earlier, the end of April, beginning of May, depends on how soon I get the song done next week.
Okay.
I have a new single coming out. It is called Crossroads.
Ooh.
That'll be out I'm pretty sure the top of May, the first week of May. It is about being in a relationship and being at a crossroads. Either we gonna shit or get off the pot.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you even have time for a love life, Devin? Or do we am I we not
that would be
opening
the
that up?
that would be the problem. That would be the
Oh, that would be the problem. Okay.
problem.
So all so go ahead.
We're gonna leave it there.
We'll
That's
leave it
it.
there. That'll be it when I have you back, okay? That's gonna be the love
You're open with
episode. But
that.
I'm open with that. So all the singles that you're releasing now, are they part of like a compilation project or
No, so they that I thought about doing that, but they actually are just I just want to get out some new music. I have so much great material I've been sitting on.
mm-hmm.
I was in a relationship for the last almost 2 years, just got out of that a couple months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just owning my own business for the last 5 years, a true real business with employees and all that stuff. There's just so many things I have to write about. Friendship and just going through things in the pandemic, just in regards to relationship, period, has just been very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
So these singles are honestly just like a compilation of my life over the last 5 years.
Okay.
Missing you. It started off with I have a song that was released called You, that talks about meeting somebody. Just you gotta go listen. It's a good record. It's one of my favorites. Then
Mm-hmm.
there's Missing You, and then I have Crossroads, and I have some other ones coming up after that. But I'm releasing good quality content for people to just fall in love with, so that they can tell me to make more, and then let me go on the road.
Yes. Okay. So that's part of your goal is to go on the road. You want to be a traveling.
Yes, I'm ready to go on the road. I'm ready to hit the road. Well, semi when things calm down just a little
Yeah, I was
more.
like, so are you just gonna put your other business? Are you taking your business with the briefcase with you, and you gonna do that at night after you sing?
We are figuring. Listen, we are figuring it out. We are figuring it out.
All right. Well, somehow it's gonna all work out. We already know
Yes.
this. Wow. All right. So, Devin, why don't you shout out where people can find you? I mean, you got a website. What you
Yes.
doing?
So my website is excuse me. My website is my name, Devin Kowl, DEVINKOWL. And then it's really simple. I'm at Devin Kowl on every single platform. If you put in Devin Kowl on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, any of that stuff, it all is the same. I keep it nice and simple.
Yes.
And it's just DEVIN, and Kowl is a little different. It's KOWL.
Cause you fancy. Okay. There was nothing regular about you, so you can't spell cold like normal. Okay. Gonna have me over here messing up the pronunciation of your name.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is great.
Thank you for being on.
Of
I
course.
will have to have you back. Okay. We're into season
Yes.
2, year 2, and we're just gonna
Exciting.
see what happens and let it do what it does. I love to snap on here, clearly. I mean, I
You do.
can't clap, so I snap. I'd be like, snap,
You
snap.
have the perfect mic for it. It like picks it up really good.
Well, I ain't going to shout out the name of it unless they want to be a sponsor because we do, we need
Hey,
sponsorships
listen.
for these artists. But anyway. All right. So we're going to wrap it up. Y'all, you have been listening to For the Artists, a podcast brought to you by Creative and Projects. I've been your host, Melissa Sharee, and I have been speaking with Devin Kowl. Y'all need to go listen to his music. Hey, you know what? Don't listen to his music. Download his music. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit follow. Because you know what? Devin is on the rise. He's out here leaping and jumping and doing big things. And if you want to get your mindset right, he's definitely a person that will inspire you. So follow him. Devin Kowl, Kowl. All right, y'all. So Creative and Projects is a 501c3 tax exempt nonprofit organization. You already know what I want you to do until next week, and that is keep creating from the inside out. Peace.